At the end of June, Biden's median online daily fundraising, a measure of a run-of-the-mill day on the site, was just under $67,000, above Kamala Harris at $50,000, but below Pete Buttigieg, $186,000, Bernie Sanders, $127,000, and Elizabeth Warren, $75,000, whose online fundraising started slow but crescendoed in the spring and early summer. From the time Biden joined the race to the end of June, Warren's median online fundraising day brought in nearly $127,000. Biden has an enthusiasm gap that is making it difficult for him online, one Democratic digital consultant said after reviewing Biden's online fundraising. It points to a hard truth for the 2020 presidential field: not every politician can win the internet, though all of them are trying. Democratic candidates for president are aching for support from online donors who, with a few taps on a keyboard or smartphone screen, can move en masse to load candidates' campaign accounts with tens of millions of dollars. Most of that online money flows to the campaigns through ActBlue, an online donation platform that collects money and passes it to the campaigns. Politico analyzed more than 4 million contributions for the 5 top polling candidates to see when the Democratic candidates were raising money, when they weren't, and what that reveals about their campaigns for president. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, for example, was building a digital following in May and June after her campaign had a slow start in the late winter and spring. Advertisement in April, Warren called for impeaching Trump and began to surge online. Warren's campaign started the year slow. She raised only $396,000 on ActBlue on February 9, the day she made her presidential campaign official, the least of any candidate's opening day in Politico's sample. And her overall first quarter campaign haul was a relatively meager $6 million. That changed as Warren's campaign picked up steam in the spring. Her first big surge online started the day after the Mueller report was released, when Warren became the first 2020 candidate to call for President Donald Trump's impeachment. Warren raised $366,000 online on April 20, the day after she made that call, 10 times the amount she'd collected on ActBlue the day before she called for impeachment. The Warren campaign said it did not use any impeachment-related materials to ask for donations. A CNN town hall on April 22, when Warren raised $331,000 online, helped her maintain momentum online through the end of the month. In June, Warren's big investments online, and student loan plan, paid dividends as Warren's campaign took off. She managed to raise six-figure sums nearly every day in June. Her campaign credits part of her growing online momentum to building an in-house digital program that pushed donors to give money through the end of the second quarter, using incentives such as a Grab a Beer with Elizabeth Warren contest. Another catalyst for Warren donors, per the campaign, student loan debt forgiveness. In follow-up surveys sent to donors, Warren's plan for erasing student loan debt was the most frequent reason that donors cited for giving to the campaign. Televised town halls were jackpots for Pete Buttigieg. Televised town halls have helped candidates grow in popularity, and no one has benefited more from the on-air interviews this election than Pete Buttigieg. In mid-March, Buttigieg, then little known and polling between 0 and 1%, slam dunked his CNN town hall, making a national debut that attracted many online donors. His fundraising on ActBlue skyrocketed from $17,000 on March 9, the day before the town hall, to $454,000 on March 11, the day after it. In May, another town hall appearance by Buttigieg on Fox News, which was panned by some critics, who said Democratic presidential candidates shouldn't appear on the conservative network, helped Buttigieg bring in $335,000 on May 20, the day after the town hall. Buttigieg built an online fundraising operation. The Buttigieg campaign has built a major fundraising operation while bypassing a common strategy of blitzing supporters with frequent emails, topped with urgent headlines such as "We're worried," pleading for cash. The campaign tries to use email tactfully and address readers in a substantive and real voice, said campaign spokesman Chris Marr. The campaign, which has held a large number of big money, in-person fundraisers, is also raising most of its money via ActBlue and collecting few checks off the platform. Buttigieg raised close to 90% of his total fundraising on ActBlue, a sign that people attending Buttigieg events in person are also donating their money via the platform. Bernie Sanders is 2020's biggest fundraiser on ActBlue. Bernie Sanders is a force to reckon with online. He's brought in $33.7 million via ActBlue this year, making him the biggest online fundraiser in the Democratic presidential primary. Sanders, who famously eschews big money fundraising in favor of mostly online grassroots support, raised $5.2 million from 202,000 donations on ActBlue the day of his launch. The candidates raked in vastly different amounts of money on their launch days, with O'Rourke leading the pack. Sanders' launch day online haul was the second biggest after Beto O'Rourke, who pulled in slightly more, $5.5 million, on ActBlue when he entered the 2020 race. Biden entering the race created another major moment for the Sanders campaign online. Biden entering the race was a boon for Sanders' own fundraising. The Vermont senator netted $728,000 on ActBlue on April 25, the day the former vice president announced his 2020 campaign. Sanders Power Day, the 19th of every month. Sanders raises hundreds of thousands of dollars on the 19th of every month thanks to a Netflix subscription-style recurring donation program he encourages for his campaign donors. On June 19, for example, 31,000 donors contributed $391,000 to the Sanders campaign. Joe Biden started his campaign with a bang. Biden entered the field in late April to huge online fanfare. He raised a colossal $7.9 million on ActBlue during the first week that he was in the race. That included $466,000 the day Biden held a much-publicized rally with union members in Pittsburgh. But Biden did not sustain his momentum though. June Biden's early online fundraising from his launch week amounted to 60% of his overall online fundraising from the first quarter of his campaign. After his impressive initial week, a median, or middle-of-the-road, fundraising day for the Biden campaign brought in $65,000. A similar day for Sanders, Buttigieg or Warren during the time raised between $124,000 and $149,000 for their campaigns. Harris, however, was raising less money in early summer. Her median day in May and June raised $37,000. Political fundraising typically rises sharply before a deadline, but Biden also did not capitalize on the end of the quarter as much as his competitors did. Between the first debates and the end of June, a fundraising deadline that took place 5 days later, Biden raised $816,000, the smallest among the top 5 polling candidates in the field. Asked about the trends, a Biden campaign aide said there are other indicators that the campaign is building a strong online effort. For example, 2/3 of Biden's online donors joined his email list since his campaign launch, according to the aide, demonstrating growth. Our campaign has grown beyond expectations and we fully expect the growth to continue as we focus on building a strong and stable grassroots fundraising operation, the aide said. Kamala Harris raised small but predictable money on ActBlue, until Harris raised significant money on ActBlue when she launched her campaign, taking in $3.4 million between her January 21 launch day and the end of that month. Since then, her campaign has hit online peaks at predictable moments, such as end-of-the-month deadlines, when campaigns plead with supporters for cash via email and text, but Harris was not pulling in big money on ActBlue on a typical fundraising day for her campaign. Her median, or middle-of-the-road, fundraising day for the first half-year of her campaign raised $50,000, the lowest of any candidate in the top 5 that Politico surveyed. Harris laid into Biden during the first Democratic debate and hit a fundraising gusher. Harris attacked Biden during the first June presidential debate for extolling his past work with segregationist senators and his record on busing, and her fundraising soared afterward. Harris raised $1.6 million online on June 28, the day after the debate. It was the most money she'd raised in a day all year, surpassing even the day she announced she was running for president. She raised $3.4 million via ActBlue in the last 5 days of June, an amount surpassed by only one other candidate. Bernie Sanders. All of the candidates tried to squeeze the first round of debates for every penny. The first round of presidential debates and a fundraising deadline for all Democratic candidates all took place in the last days of June, creating a critical crunch for candidates raising money. Candidates hustle to bring in cash so they can prove they have enthusiasm from donors and so they can hire staff and build up their forces for the next 3-month stretch of the campaign. In total, Democratic donors made 1.1 million contributions to presidential candidates in the last 10 days of the month, according to ActBlue. During the last 5 days of the quarter, which included the first Democratic debates and 3 days following them, Sanders raised the most money online of any candidate, $4.2 million, followed by Harris, $3.4 million, Warren, $3.2 million, Buttigieg, $3.1 million, and Biden, $816,000. Let's block ads. Why?